I just want to start off this video by saying that not all sequels suck, right? I mean, there are some good ones, but overall, for the most part, in my opinion, most sequels suck. And I'm going to tell you why right now. Then I'm going to tell you what to do about it if you're thinking about writing a sequel. So here's why sequels suck. They suck because the main character's arc is usually done. Any good story completes the main character's arc in the very first installment. All writers know this. In fact, it's the most important thing to a writer. Sequels are a gamble because you are starting a new arc the audience might not be interested in anymore. They were satisfied with the first story's arc. If the main character's arc is so important now in this sequel, then why wasn't it tackled in the very first story? So here are some bad sequels in my opinion. Okay, the Back to the Future series. Now the first one is classic, right? The first one is it's a perfect film. Right? It's a successful merging of character and plot. So Marty McFly's arc is completed. He changed the future for the better. But the second one is just a plot-driven movie. It's a cheap metafiction story riding the coattails of the first one by literally incorporating exact moments to remind the audience of how awesome it was. You know, the hoverboard and the future scenes were pretty cool in the second one, but the story was lame. The third one isn't even about Marty anymore. The Doc takes over the role of the main character because Marty's arc was done in the very first one. So by making the second one so comparable to the first, any attempts to make a third would be unrecognizable if it deviated from its heavy metafiction story of using the exact moments and scenes from the first two. Which is what happened, and that's why it sucked. The Matrix. Only the first one is good. I mean, the first Matrix is one of a kind, great movie. I can't say, enough good things about it. It's perfect. The second one was meh, very plot driven, no character arcs at all, and only Neo's decision to save Zion or save Trinity was, barely relevant. It was good, but it wasn't explored enough to be as dramatic as it could be. The third one is terrible. I mean, it's just completely garbage. It's unwatchable, right? And it's completely plot driven. Nothing new. Neo's arc was completed long ago in the very first one. That's it. Sam Raimi's Spiderman. Only the first two, in my opinion, are good, right? Peter's origin story from geek to superhero is perfect. And the choice he makes to not go with MJ at the end of the first one makes the story that more powerful. The second one continues perfectly, right? Which is very rare in sequels, but the second one, in my opinion, is actually better than the first one. And it introduces doubt into Peter's mind that he isn't right for this superhero job anymore. It's a good angle because at the end of the first one, he was so sure he was right for the job. To see him plagued with uncertainty is different. The third one fails on a major level because of both character and plot. Some of the worst writing I've ever seen, actually. The amnesia Harry gets is just a way to keep his villain character subdued until the end. And the worst part of the movie is the retcon of Uncle Ben's death by the hand of the Sandman. That is totally unforgivable. It was changed to make the story more personal to Peter, but instead played the audience like a fool. However, Peter becoming drawn to the dark side is a good arc we haven't really seen before. Unfortunately, that wasn't explored enough either, and that's why Part 3 sucked. Star Wars. A New Hope introduced great characters and told a good story. Empire continued the story thanks to the realization of Vader being Luke's father, which I must say felt forced to create a character-driven element. Obi-Wan had told Luke his father was dead at the hands of Vader in the very first one, so that's not good writing if the eventual revelation was to reveal that Vader was Luke's dad. Doing that fools the audience because there's no way for the audience to discover the mystery of who Luke's father really was. But Return of the Jedi, the next sequel, sucked. Totally plot-driven, boring. Han Solo and Leia were reduced to useless side characters, and Luke is just waiting around to fight Vader for the second time. Jedi was the weakest one of them all, big time. The only point of the movie was to see Luke fight Vader again, and this could have been solved in Empire and ended there. So the reason for these sequels being garbage is that stories in general don't need sequels, not really. The character finishes their arc in the very first one, so boom, that's it, that means the story is done. If a good enough idea comes about to create a sequel, most times it will be told wrongly because it doesn't produce enough character-driven story or doesn't build upon the elements that were introduced in the very first story. Sequels are usually made because publishers and movie studios want to capitalize on the success of the very first story. And they don't truly care about the quality of the sequels they are producing. So, is a sequel worth it? Ultimately, that's up for you to decide. A sequel is asking for a lot of different character development and unique plots each time around. A good sequel isn't impossible, but it is improbable. So what do you think? Agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Take care.